You're going to get arrested for tinkering.
Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Ask Ed Smith with Barry T. I'm Barry T, and I've got Ed Smith right here.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to see you,
Let's see what we have today.
We've got some great questions.
Great questions?
Yeah, I think so.
Different?
Yeah, I think
Maybe about car stuff?
Yeah, we're going to start off with something a little bit, it's an opinion, okay? We like to start off. By the way, this is always about Ed's opinion, really, and his experience, so that's all good.
I said the other day on something, we were talking, and it had to do with automatic transmission over here, a 700R, that we changed the piston on one side and put a Corvette piston in it, so it shifts a little harder into second gear, and it worked out fine. We just took us probably 15 minutes to do it, just a clip in there.
The solenoid you changed?
Piston in the second gear servo.
Oh, a servo piston. Okay.
Yeah, we changed it to a different diameter.
Okay.
And he had the transmission done by somebody, and it didn't shift that hard.
Uh-huh.
And I would say, if I was going to do the transmission, not that there wasn't a question or anything, that I would just put them in automatically.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't somebody want that transmission to shift a little bit harder,
yeah,
a little bit firmer?
And you've mentioned
Because if people are buying them nowadays, they're having them in a street rod or have something in a pickup truck with a little bit of a motor, and they don't want that stock motor and that stock transmission, and it shifts like an old lady.
And you mentioned before that they last longer when there's a crisp shift.
Absolutely, they last longer because they don't slide in a gear and keep sliding in and wearing the stuff out.
Okay.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
And but anyways, I was telling him that it's my age. I'm smart enough to know that I should know more. Because there's some stuff I don't know about the later model transmissions.
Yeah.
But I don't want to learn either.
You're good.
I'm done. I'm disqualified. But I know that there's things you can do to them.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And if I was start over, which I'm not going to start over, but in the transmission business, I'd want to know those little secrets.
Yeah, that's right.
We'd drill a little hole here and make it shift a little bit more in third gear or something, or fourth gear and things like that. So, okay, what kind of question we got?
The first question I want to start with is what your thoughts are, and this is going back to I believe the 60s is the reference here. He doesn't say that. But our Railroad John is saying, can Ed give his thoughts comparing the 425 Nailhead Buick to the 425 Rocket Oldsmobile? They were competitive with each other, weren't they?
They were not the same engine by a long ways.
Yeah.
But I think the performance and the way they lasted is a toss-up.
Really, they're pretty close, huh?
Yeah, really close. Because the 420 that car moved. It could have had a couple carburetors on it from the factory.
Uh-huh.
You put in a Riviera, and they started going in the bigger exhausts from the factory and things like this. But they were both great motors.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to pull a car with 6,000 pounds. Our race cars used to weigh 31 or 32 in a Nova.
Yeah.
After you get done making a race car. Mm-hmm. Some plexiglass windows, a few things like this, and still weighed 32.
Yeah.
That was a big job for those motors to run, to pull those cars, and did what they did.
Yeah, and they were both pretty torquey, weren't they?
They were torquey. If you just stayed on the gas, it'd go right to 100 and just keep on going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was torquey. It was really a wonderful motor.
Okay. So
but
both the
most expensive to build.
They were definitely different engines. Was there anything about either the Buick 425 or the Olds 425 that you can remember as being interesting?
Anything unusual?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
I really don't. I don't think there's anything unusual about them.
Yeah. John was saying he remembers being a kid in the back seat of the Riviera and his dad would hit the gas and the ice cream cone would go in his face.
Yes.
So it would really move.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then if the neighbor man, his pickup truck was gotten away, he could just go out in a little bit of the gravel going down the road and a little bit out in the grass and go right around him.
Okay.
Go around that old pickup truck.
We're not going to wait.
And I can't think that there wasn't a few instances like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. This is a pretty technical question on engine building.
Okay, let's try that.
Let's try it. This is Pat, and he says, can you ask Ed, do you recommend the removal of the skirts or drilling several holes in the piston skirts for better performance and lubrication?
Usually I leave that up to the piston manufacturer.
Okay.
I have a piston over here that's got holes all drilled through it in one of our cars.
Okay.
But and it's got a light and anything more than anything else. And as far as scrape, the piston is a fairly short piston, but it's really light because they drilled a bunch of holes in it. And but I don't know. I was never. Again, this is one of our motors.
Yeah.
The piston is sitting right here in the cage right there. I can show you. And it is quite a unique piston.
Okay.
With the thin rings and everything else. And
Well, maybe we should go grab it real quick.
I'll
and
just
take a
go
look.
grab it here, just 2 seconds.
Yeah, you got it right here.
It didn't take long.
Yeah.
So anyways, here's one of the pistons. It has holes through the side, not necessarily the skirt. I don't like to put holes in the skirt, but the sides, and then down the inside of it. And it's a piston. It's a 410 cubic inch junior fuel car piston. It's got the light ring in it. The ring looks like an oil ring. That's the compression ring. The other one's about as light. So the rings don't weigh anything. The piston don't weigh anything. And this motor right here, right now, will go 10,000 easy, fairly easy. It's on, yeah.
So when you say you want to leave the skirt alone,
I'd leave the skirt alone because that's where it shows. You don't have much surface on the skirt in the first place. But this is our piston.
okay,
I don't know what he has on his.
yeah,
If you was going to do something like that, I wouldn't drill big holes in it.
I see.
That would be not my recommendation.
Because the
I would
skirt's there
build-
for a reason.
I'd build little holes, drill little holes in it, so if they want to relieve the oil. But you got to have oil in that skirt. You can't have this piston touch the cylinder wall at all. I have another one laying back here right now that's a piston, 350 Chevy piston. I hate to get off the subject, but it has a little scar down this skirt on that 350 piston, just a little bit. And the rest of the pistons, the other 7, are perfect. So it don't have too many lines, but it did somehow ran out of oil in that piston.
I see.
The skirt was just scratched on one, the other side just fine. The wrist pin's completely wore out.
Really? Okay.
The wrist pin.
Huh.
That's how technical it is. Yeah, as soon as that scarred, that wore the wrist pin out. I mean, the wrist pin actually shakes inside the piston.
Wow. Because normally it seems like that's the last thing that
That'd be the last thing, yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
And I think I remember a little story I said about, remember 1966, I think it was, that the city of Glendale brought me a pickup truck brand new. I think it was a 6-cylinder Dodge. Brand new truck. It had like 700 miles on it.
Oh, wow.
Little step-side Ford or Dodge truck.
Yeah.
I was with the dealer then. And they said it smoked. It did. I mean, really smoked like an old Ford.
Okay.
And we drove up down the street, and me and my friend next door, the mechanic, and says, we'll fix that thing. We'll fix that up there. We had no problem with fixing that. It's under warranty, 7 miles on it. So we know it's going to do something. So we got a little Bynami. That's the stuff you wash your hands with, like,
Yeah, it's like-
Comet. We put a little bit of that in some solvent. I said, okay, I'll run a motor. I'll be in the Skycat, run the motor. You pour it in the carburetor, and we'll seat those rings. So after we poured it in there, not too much. I don't know if it's too much or not. I never do. But anyways, pretty soon it quit running.
Oh, wow.
We couldn't get it started, so we hooked on the tow truck and towed it down the street behind the shop and got it running again. It really smoked then. So we tore it apart.
Yeah.
The cylinder walls were chrome.
No kidding.
Yeah.
They're polished up.
Polished them chrome. The pistons were chrome. They were really polished. And one thing about it, surprised me because we put it in the carburetor. We didn't pour it in the oil. It surprised me the wrist pins were wore out because that comes from the oil.
Yeah.
But the wrist pins were wore out, so we just took the motor completely apart and warranted it.
Yeah.
We bored it out and 30 over in the neighborhood machine shop did it all for us.
Yeah.
It's under warranty, but we learned something. We just want to do a little of our own experimenting with this brand new truck.
So,
Well, I figured the only thing about it, come to find out, we'd mixed up a batch of Bynami for 8-cylinder, and it was only a 6. Other than that, we could have fixed it.
sure. Okay.
Didn't matter.
Wow.
Didn't matter.
Jim seems to remember that some points used to be what he called ventilated. They had a hole in the middle.
Got a hole in the center, yeah.
Yeah, you remember
there's one.
those?
Yeah, sure. I did the other day. I scratched around on a pair. I think it was on a 51 Ford flathead. The points looked good, and we put a 12-volt coil on it on this stock distributor, threw a resistor, and it had the vented points in it. It had a hole in the points. And of course, if it vents them, they won't corrode near as much, and they won't get that. Other than that, they'll build a tip on it.
Okay.
Like a welded slag on it. Those electronic, enough of that push that tip would be up here.
So
Stick right up out of it.
So if it was ventilated, it would help reduce that?
Oh yeah, it'd be a lot cooler.
Okay.
Points are cooler, sure, absolutely. Probably cost maybe 75 cents more for vented points.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to spend too much money. You know, they're going to change them anyways.
Right. Okay.
We were just saying to changing something, and we just went to lunch and came back, and we were talking about changing oil. And I said, I remember when the people come in the Case Beer's dealership in Edgerton, Ohio, the Dodge dealer there, and they changed oil every 1,000 miles, and they changed the filter every other time.
Okay.
Old Dodge, but the Dodge went for 200,000 miles. I don't know, it's still going, I think.
Yeah, right.
You know, 65 years later, still going down the road probably.
That's got to be the cheapest insurance, right? To change oil more often?
I think so, yeah. And I think our oil guy,
Lake Speed?
Lake Speed, I think he ought to say that too. That it's just not common sense to run 15,000 miles on a change of oil, or even maybe 10,000. It's too much on a change of oil. And I think that. We agree with that. And
yep.
Whatever Lake Speed says, I'll agree with that anyways.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
That's
so
good.
Call him, get a hold of him. I think he's in oil research someplace back east in NASCAR, but he has maybe his own business, if I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
I think it is now, if you want to get your oil tested, and he'll tell you all about it. Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, he is.
Give him a little shout.
Yeah. Tell him BarryTsGarage sent you.
Yeah, BarryTsGarage sent you. And Ed Smith.
Ed Smith.
He's my friend.
There you go.
Yeah, real good friend, so.
Okay, so Joseph is writing in. He says, I love listening to old school hot rod talk. I always wanted to get a 256 Y-block V8 and put it in an Australian XP Falcon Ute. So he's a Ford guy from Australia.
From down under.
Yeah, down under. He said
this is winter here, so it's probably summer there.
Summer there, right?
Yeah, go after it. What?
He says the 256 is the rarest Y-block.
256.
Outside of the 239. So when they first came out, I think they kind of matched up with the old flathead, as I recall. Everybody's heard of the 272, the 292, the 312.
Yeah.
But the smaller 239 and 256 never got any love.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, we didn't have very many of those.
No, I wonder if sometimes it seems Australia got a few more of the smaller engines.
I think they got a little bit. I don't know. They were something else. They have some things that we never had.
Well, like that 302 Cleveland. We never got that.
Yeah, we never got that.
No. So you guys have some fun that we don't get to have.
And they have some high performance stuff down there we'd like to get sometimes. And even though, you know, we know some people there.
Yeah.
And we bought our Chevy heads from them a few years ago. And for that dragster, because we had to have a certain cylinder head with a casting number on it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. We said that before. We don't mind this. It's only about 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
That's right.
But we get that. They would make any cylinder head we wanted.
That's
and
right.
Put the casting number on we wanted.
Yeah.
So everything was fair and square.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Fair enough. So thanks. Thank you guys. Have fun.
There you go. That's good. Okay. Next one. We've got another Ford question here. It's from Brett. Is a 351, a 302, or a stroked block? The reason I ask, these little engines are stressed so hard to make use of such a radical intake system. What do you figure about the airflow required? If you're making a 383, let's say, okay, and that's a Chevy, usually a Chevy, I think. But having 1,000 CFM is pretty much a waste because the engine simply can't pump that much air. So what are your thoughts when you're making a bigger displacement out of a small block? How do you figure out what's the right percentage of carburetor, let's say?
Usually try on air. Depends on what you're doing with it.
Okay.
You know, if you're just going to run it on a dyno and see how much you can get out of it, that's totally a different story than trying to race the thing. Yeah, a dyno is, as far as I know, a dyno sheet didn't win you. You probably won some races because you dynoed. It's because you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
If the dyno guy helps you and you have time to jet the carburetor and change the carburetor to a bigger or smaller or change all kinds. You could, if you had your own dyno at home, you could dyno for a couple of months on one motor.
Right.
Change the camshaft, advance it, and do all kinds and get a lot of horsepower. Then you got to take time out from dyno and go race the thing.
Right. Right.
You know, and hope you can win.
Yeah.
The motor's about probably half the race, and the driver's the other half.
Yeah.
So, and airflow, Once you do some of the things, we find out that the cylinder head sometimes can flow more than you think.
Okay.
So I don't think that's ever been our concern with airflow. We have some weird things. We have as a aluminum Chevrolet 4-barrel intake manifold sitting right there right now, and we used to do whatever the intake manifold was available, and then we would take exhaust pipe tubing and make a stand maybe 2 or 3 inches taller and make a flange on it. But with these 4 tubes and or 2-barrel, and raise the carburetor maybe 2 inches and 3 inches. And sure enough, it ran faster and faster. Depends on what you were doing with it and how many cubic inches you have. And this is a particular one, small block Chevy. And you don't see these very often. This is a Team G manifold, but look how high it is.
Wow.
I think they were worried here that you put the carburetor on, you can't get the hood down. But they do have big air cleaners and stuff. And so this draws a lot of air just because you made a motor that you think it pulls more air, and is the motor capable of pulling that kind of air? I think that's the question.
Yeah. How much air is
How much air can you pull, or can you still get more horsepower? More air.
What's the advantage of raising up the carburetor like that?
Just to make the ram effect again.
Okay.
Some of this stuff with some of the things that we found was on this particular motor, we loved that, and I think they made some rules against it now. Changed the firing order, 5/7 swap. Because you had two cylinders that could fired right together. One sucked the fuel and the other sucked the next.
Oh, I see. Right.
Not really. And then one over here and one over there and one over there. So each one could get a bite of the cake.
Right.
And there's 2 cylinders over here getting one bite of the whole cake.
Yeah.
So they're not doing so well.
They're getting more than their share.
Yeah. So then end up with this 5/7 swap that ran with a Pontiac firing order. And that motor had a lot more torque. It really did.
Okay.
Because it was shared that fuel separately, equally. So it's kind of things. What some of the stuff's available.
This is from Bergie. He says, whatever happened to water injection?
And so we used a windshield washer motor,
Yeah.
and you had to put the reservoir below the carburetor, other than that, siphon it right out of there. Siphon the carburetor, the engine could full of water. And we put we always get, I think it was Dodge made a windshield washer, a big reservoir, a lot bigger than somebody else. And so we had the pump in the bottom, and we took the carburetor air cleaner and poke a little hole in it and solder a little piece of steel tubing in it and flatten the tubing. Flatten it so it's just 2 little squirts of hole.
I see.
So just a little mist, and take a pair of pliers and kind of adjust it both ways to get what you want, but so it didn't kill the engine.
Right. Not too much.
Not too much, yeah. Then we put a Hobbs switch on it. That's a Stewart Warner called Hobbs switch, which is on, and then when it's off, is the opposite.
I see.
So it's a vacuum switch. So anything, if the vacuum was 15 pounds, it wouldn't be on. If it went below 5 pounds, then the switch was on.
Oh, so when more throttle met,
Yes, as
water
soon as
would
you
come on.
accelerated and the vacuum dropped below 5, this would ignite the pump and pump water.
I
And
see.
you were running wide open throttle.
right on. Okay, good.
Yeah. And we used to go to Flagstaff and stuff and put in a motor. And actually, I have a brand new one though, sitting on the shelf, still in the box, Edelbrock.
Really?
I have the whole box with it, brand new. And it says for motorhome. And I would put it on in a minute if I had some kind of reason to put it on.
Yeah.
If I had a motorhome and traveled around a lot.
Yeah.
And theirs was variable pitch. Variable on the water.
Really?
Yeah, so the more you accelerated, the more water it put out.
Interesting.
It was quite a thing. I don't know if they still sell it or not.
Yeah.
But then you put alcohol in it. Just regular rubbing alcohol, and that mixes with water. Now you got a little bit of a water injector there with some alcohol in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It always did it. Took all the heat right off the motor.
Yeah.
Cleaned the pistons up, and like going to Flagstaff with a big diesel truck, we used a lot of water going to Flagstaff, pulling a couple horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
That's
it was
good.
a great thing. I don't know why I don't know if they have that much problem with these motors anymore. So many of the times the newer ones are computer. You start going up hills and the thing gets hot. They retard the timing and stuff and automatically. So
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
yeah, it was a good question.
Okay, so Racer Rick, he likes to throw a question out there once in a while. He's talking about those Brzezinski ported Rams horn exhaust manifolds. So he's wondering, on a small block making some horsepower, how much difference do those make, do you think?
Well, as long as you had a 2.5-inch pipe.
Okay.
That's the whole secret of that ram horn, like Corvette ram horn.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, 2.5-inch pipe. And 2.5-inch pipe the whole way, yeah.
Okay. So it's not just the exhaust.
I
You
don't
gotta
think
match it.
Sanderson headers flowed probably a little bit because they were a little bit different. Sanderson flowed a little bit more than I never tested them. A little bit more than the stock Corvette manifold.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you would say some horsepower, but not like a crazy
Not great. No, didn't do anything fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because they weren't a header,
Yeah.
and
That's
they
right.
didn't have the downpipe like a header would have or anything like that.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, good.
All right. We're going to. We're due for a transmission question.
Okay.
Here we are. So this is from Science Man. He says, we've got a guy a car has been sitting for too long. It's his friend's car. He got it running, the engine's running, but the turbo 350 transmission, he can't shift it into any gear. Any ideas whether the governor needs to be removed and cleaned and put back, or what could be stuck?
A filter's plugged up probably.
Probably the filter.
Yeah, just filter. And sometimes they had a screen filter in them early, and then they had a carpet filter, like a piece of carpet.
Okay.
And that filter, that oil set in there would dry. I just took a 50 old transmission apart
Yeah.
the other day. It's on the bench right now. The old Hydromatic. It'd been sitting so who knows how long, maybe 50 years. And the oil had actually dried up in there.
Oh.
Now I take it off, it flakes off in flakes. That's definitely not, it's in the converter mainly.
Wow.
That's definitely, I don't want that flakes of oil. Looks like leaves,
Wow.
tree leaves or something. Flakes, and I don't want that in the valve body
Yeah,
or anywhere.
It'll get trapped in all kinds of
So
places.
I'm soaking this stuff with everything I know how. Lacquer thinner, and yeah. I've been soaking it for a week.
Wow.
I think I got it all cleaned up.
Okay, good.
But I wasn't in a hurry because
Yeah. Well, you can't be in a hurry when
you
you're.
can't wash it because it's just oil. It's an oil base. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's like 100 years of varnish.
Is it almost like clay?
Yeah, well, it's shiny like a varnish.
Okay.
Like you put paint in it. Let the paint dry.
Yeah, right.
With shiny oil.
Yeah. Huh.
It's just, they put anything on it, it becomes sticky. Yeah, instead of flaking off or dissolving,
Yeah.
I'm trying to find something that dissolves it.
Yeah. Huh.
But I think I got it all off with a little scrub brush and things like this. I think I got it all clean. But again, that's the same thing. I would take the filter off
Okay.
and change the filter. Don't try to clean it or anything.
And put fresh fluid in while you're
Put
at
fresh fluid in it, and I would put a pint of lacquer thinner in it.
it. How about the brake fluid idea?
Not the brake fluid. No.
No?
Don't put that brake fluid in the transmission.
Okay.
But lacquer thinner in it. Just go
Lacquer
get
thinner.
a pint of lacquer thinner and just pour it in there.
Okay.
With the transmission oil, but don't let it set. Get in, start up, and we'll start the motor all up and run it and try to get it to go backwards and forwards. If you get it to go backwards and forward, drive it.
Okay.
Or shifts through always and make that lacquer thinner go in the whole transmission.
Oh, I
The
see.
torque converter and all the drums and all the pistons and stuff, and it'll clean it right up.
Right. Right.
If you want to get it out of there without messing with it, you can get all done. You're thinking, hey, this is doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But not quite as what I expected, so we'll take a cooler line off the radiator and start the motor up and run it in there, drain it into a pan. You see how black it is.
Oh.
It won't be red transmission, it'll be black. And we put some more red oil in it, and run it through, flush it out a little bit, shut it, put the cooler line back on, maybe another quart of lacquer thinner, drive it some more. Flush it out without
Okay.
taking it apart. And that might be something, yeah, try that.
So, okay, those are good ideas.
Yeah, just try and see what happens.
Well,
a lot of times, again, we'll go back to the seal in the transmission is a rubber seal, a little black lip seal. And it's hard. It's stuck there and it's got hard. So it only has a few thousand coats of transmission oil on it. And then got cold. So it just stays there stuck. There's no flexing to it. So once you put the lacquer thinner in it, the lacquer thinner goes by and goes past that seal. Goes right by it. And it eats all the oil off of it. And here's the live seal again. It's nice and flexible.
Okay.
The oil can't pass by it, and it shifts, and there you go.
Yeah.
That's the theory. There's no magical at all.
Yeah.
It just cleans up the old oil in the transmission, the whole transmission.
Right.
Because you start up and ran it, and all the gears, reverse and neutral, and high gear, and cleans the torque motor, and then flush it out and put some more in it.
Yeah, that's
pretty cheap, and instead of spending maybe $1,500, $2,000 to have it rebuilt.
Yeah, right.
Good luck. Let us know how it worked out.
Yeah, okay, good. That's great. That was good advice. Gruberstein says he's got a rule of thumb about camshafts, okay? See if this matches up to how you think. His rule of thumb is pick out the cam you think you want, then get the one with a little bit less lift and duration and increase the rocker ratio.
It'll be fine.
You like that?
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah.
So when he's doing a little more with the rocker arms and a little less with the cam?
I changed the duration, it's changed the lift.
It's the lift.
Yeah. And camshaft grinder can only make so much lift and so much duration.
Yeah.
Other than that, the cam would, the lift would go straight up the hill and fall off the end,
Yeah.
and then it would dig into the cam. And the cam globe, it won't go start it. It digs right into it. I've had some camshafts on my old slats, the old Falcon 6-cylinder, that he would make them whenever I wanted them.
Uh-huh.
And it was short duration and a lot of lift. But I knew I was going to wear out a camshaft every 2 months.
Oh, I see. So you let
Wear it right out. Lifters and cam would work. They'd be gone 2 months. So I'd buy another one from him. But I won the races too.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So you're letting the rocker arms do a little more of the lifting.
The more the lifting, yeah. Exactly right. And
Oh.
we even had that 6-cylinder Falcon motor. I had roller rocker arms on that too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Was that in the 70s you did that?
Yeah,
70s, yeah.
You know, that Sour 6.
Yeah. That's where all the trophies came from around
Yeah,
here.
that's where most of the trophies came from.
Most of them
The
anyway.
bigger ones, yeah.
Yeah, the big ones.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, very good. So Christopher says he's hoping that everything's going well, and he wants our thoughts, or your thoughts. He doesn't want my thoughts. He wants your thoughts on dual profile cam versus the single profile. My guess is that some big cubic inch engines like Olds and Pontiac benefit from a dual profile to compensate for the smaller valve size compared to the big block Chevy that has bigger valves.
You have to be careful with that because like an Oldsmobile might have big intake but small exhaust. And you can't run that same profile on both.
Oh, I see.
You just can't do that.
So
you'd have to change the one for the exhaust. So this is so small.
Yeah.
You might have to do a little bit more lift and a little bit more duration on the exhaust and cut back on the intake because it's going to get a lot of air in that intake. We don't hear that very often.
No,
we don't hear that question very much, and people are actually concerned with that. They just don't know about that and don't think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This reminds me of a topic we talked about before, and that was the quarter speed cam.
Yeah.
Had lobes on both sides. You said you had a friend that had one.
So we have 6 of them. He was in the other day.
Yeah, do you have one here?
No, I don't, but I'll go get one.
We got to show people what that looks like.
I think he's got something else for it. That goes to some of the kit, yeah.
Okay. One question that came to my mind, we didn't talk about this, but if they've got a lobe on both sides of a cam because it opens twice on one turn,
yeah,
doesn't that make it harder to get it in because you've got to have the space to get the cam?
No, it's the same.
Is it?
They're no bigger than the cam bearing.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever goes in the cam bearing hole will go in there.
Okay, but I'm just thinking cams with a single lobe, you can
Move
come
it,
off the base circle,
back and back.
bump it up.
But when it gets down the thing, you still got to put it in the hole.
You still got to get it in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
That's good. Next question. Sometimes a restricting plate was installed to allow coolant flow back into the radiator without the interruption of mechanical valving of a thermostat. Mechanics would adjust the flow by changing the size of the orifice. Sometimes they could simply pry out the insides of a thermostat. Have you done that kind of a thing?
I know what he's talking about.
Yeah?
I have some restrictor plates, or a whole set of them.
Do you?
Yeah, and they're tin plates you put in the thermostat, different size holes in them.
Uh-huh.
If you don't want to run the water through the radiator. I think some people, you hear my thing sometimes, is they don't want to run the water through the radiator too fast. Because it goes in the top at 100 or 200 degrees and comes out the bottom 200.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
you want it to go in the radiator at 200 and go out the bottom at 100.
Right.
Dissipate, the radiator should dissipate whatever heat you want, maybe 100 degrees.
Right.
So that's the more water you flow through it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't, that would be on a race car only.
I see.
And we would use that in the wintertime to heat the engine up. And we also had cardboard we put in front of the radiator too to heat it up,
Yeah.
to get the hot, because that's the most important part of your motor is how hot it gets
Yeah.
or how cool it gets.
Yeah. If you're not managing that, you're gonna have other
Yeah,
problems,
right,
I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah,
All right. Well, this is our last question today, and it's kind of a little bit fun. He's asking, did you ever come across one of those 200 mile per gallon carburetors that people used to talk about?
Fish?
Yeah, maybe a fish carburetor or some
the
of
only
the
one I
others.
ever seen.
You've never seen anything like that?
There was quite a few around when I first, in the 60s. And I think there was a lot of stuff and a lot of parts for those around, and they got really good mileage. I think it was easy to change the jet too.
Okay.
So you had to play with it and play on it. You only get so much mileage.
Yeah.
This isn't like, I don't know if anybody got 200.
Right.
I don't think so. Unless he burnt the motor down.
Now, when you were a mechanic at the Chrysler or the Dodge dealer,
Yeah.
Obviously when a car's under warranty, you're keeping everything stock. But did you have customers coming in wanting to change carburetors back in those times?
No.
No. That was just keep it just like it is.
Left it like it is.
Okay. There you go.
We used to have one mechanic over here that he thought that this old guy would, and he ended up later, he had a tune-up shop over here. I don't know how he did with that. Mm-hmm. Him and his brother or something, but he was kind of a hard guy to get along with. But anyways, he would take a customer's cars and tune them up, and that's what he was in, tune-up. I was in motors and transmissions and rear ends. I did everything except tune-ups.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't let me do them. The boss wouldn't let me. That was the other guy's job.
He wanted you to focus on your thing.
Yeah. But keep him busy.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, that was a lot of times that he'd put on and change the jets in the guy's car. It didn't run right. It wouldn't run right. That'd be like taking a pair of pliers and squeezing the gas line off. You know, it ain't going to go nowhere.
Right. Right.
You know, so it only goes like 60 miles an hour. We do this sometimes with our emissions. It's like we have the AFB carburetor won't go through emissions. So we take the metering rods out and drop coat hanger in there.
Okay.
It's a piece of coat hanger about this long, put the air cleaner back on. The car will only go about 65 miles an hour, but it really runs lean. And then you pull the coat hanger out of there and put those in the glove box, put your metering rods back in again, you're all ready to go.
Right.
You know, I don't know, I guess that's maybe against the law. I don't know if you're tinkering.
Tinkering,
But I
yeah.
guess you can tinker your car all you want to. There's no law about you're going to arrested for tinkering. But anyways, this guy would jet the fuel down, push it, and then the next day this guy wasn't to work. He said, this guy's back again. You want to jet that carburetor back up where it was before?
Yeah.
You made me put the jets back in it again.
Yeah.
And then it ran fine. So he didn't have the nerve to tell the mechanic he was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't like that mechanic very well.
No, apparently not. He was. Oh well.
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh,
Very few people I don't like.
Yeah, you.
This guy was.
Yeah, somebody has to earn it with you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway,
Well, that's good. Well, Ed, thank
I
you.
won't forget him.
No, I guess not.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, thanks for taking the time. I know a lot of people often talk about how much they appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time and doing that again today.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's welcome.
All right, and thanks for your comments and your questions. Keep sending the questions. We're a little behind, but we will catch up. We'll get there.
Okay, good.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
See you next time.